Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on March 12th, 2024 at approximately 4:30 p.m. PST. Now, I've returned to this world for one primary purpose, and that is to remind people that working together, we, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally use in my day to day life. And the philosophies of life I talk about are the precise philosophies I guide my own personal choices by. Now, I know these tools will work for you because they continue to work for me and have worked for literally thousands of other people with varying degrees of success, depending entirely on their own personal efforts. Now, before I get into it, we have Chad Smith in with the gold. Chad, how you doing? Glad you could join us. When I first read that, it says, "Hey Keith, happy Tuesday." I originally thought it said happy birthday. I'm like, no, we're a little off. But happy Tuesday to you and everyone else as well. The fact of the matter is, there's a lot that we can be happy about and a lot we can be upset about. It's just a question of whether or not we bother being upset. Then we have Eternity Eternally with the silver. Eternity, hopefully your day is going well. It's nice seeing you get in early. You've been rather on the hectic side lately. And we have a relative newcomer in the house as well, with Kira Ava coming in with the bronze. How's it going, Kira? Glad you could join us. And Storm and Shadow is in with honorable mention. Storm, I know your day's been busy, and I'm supposed to get in touch with you to get a few things sorted out. But thus far, well, my day's been hectic to say the least. And then we carry on down the aisle, and we have here Steve Knox is in. Steve, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Now, today we're going, because this is Tuesday, aka Gaming Day, I figure let's link it with reality. Imagination, a key to reality. The fact of the matter is, oh, I forgot one little detail here. Had it all set up to go. This is the link to Chad Smith's live stream and archives. Absolutely drop in, give him a listen. If you like what he has to say, do give him a thumbs up and then share the daylights out of the thing. Because quite frankly, it's in sharing these links that we are going to build a network that can change the path this world is on, regardless of what the so-called elites, the politicians, the pedagogical situation, and the spiritual guides are doing at this point. We've got an opportunity in front of us. Okay, we can continue looking at the past. There's an old saying that goes, those that don't know history are doomed to repeat it. The problem is, those that dwell on history have exactly the same problem. Okay, now, Joe, what do we got here? Joe goes, tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, Kimberly Paget will be on Michigan Bigfoot Rob, talking more about her paranormal experiences in Michigan. So I'm going to watch that tonight as well. Excellent, Joe. That'll keep you out of trouble. Or give you something else to listen to. That's 9 p.m. Yeah. See, the neat part there is, and I know you do this regularly, you're as bad as I am. Have the show on the laptop, and then I've got my show on the laptop, so I know I'm looking at you guys. And then over here on my left, I've got the bigger monitor, so I can see what you're looking at. Works out kind of conveniently. But when we start looking at reality itself, it is entirely up to you on what you can see. Okay, on what you will see is more to the point. Now, like I said, we have this neat problem. History has been written. And, you'd think with history having been written, although it is written by the victors, in case you hadn't noticed, either by the victors or by the survivors, depending on who you want to talk to. Okay, you'd think with it all documented, we wouldn't be repeating the same process time and time again. And yet that's exactly what we're doing. Okay. I just finished about a week and a half back, I finished reading my grandmother's autobiography. And the way that people, and I don't mean just the government's been lying a lot anyway. Okay. They're telling the same stories, they're painting the same picture, but the general population is treating immigrants exactly the same way they did 100 years ago. And in all fairness, they're doing the same thing they did 2,000 years ago. All of this is written down in history. So why, pray tell, are we repeating the process? What, pray tell, is giving people this brilliant idea that this is a good move? Now, imagine, if you will, a world when you walk out the front door, you don't have to worry about whether or not somebody down the street is going to shoot you, or you don't have to worry when you leave the house. Can you imagine how much more relaxed you'll be if all of a sudden people start, or even if they take their time getting around to it? Can you imagine a world where people are actually helping each other? Okay, this is why I say it's time to start a pandemic. Okay, not one like the last lockdown. I'm talking a pandemic that nobody desires to stop. Literally speaking, start smiling at each other. If you want to take a cynical look at it, smile, keep them guessing. The reality is there's a lot this one that the future has to hold of a positive nature. The question is, are we going to bother dealing with it on a better front? And Raven, how you doing? Glad you could join us. I am presuming that we are still on for tomorrow, because according to my records, I should be in the rabbit hole with you there. That sounds really twisted. We should have the rabbit hole going next tomorrow. I still don't know what we're talking about, and that's the nice thing about the rabbit hole, is I never know of course, in all fairness, I don't know what I'm talking about here either. Okay. Now, with that in mind, I do have to find something. Pull that up and let's see, where is the rabbit hole? I am looking for what there we are. Is the link to Raven Show. At least it's the only one I've currently got. So hopefully this is right. And we pop that in there. And this is the link to Raven Show. So absolutely, tomorrow night she comes on the air. Okay. This is one of those weird ones where I'm actually going to be on air with her. So drop in, give her a listen. If you like the way the show goes, give her a thumbs up, do subscribe to the channel, and share the daylights out of the thing. Okay, and then we have Shadow and Sun. Welcome on board there, Shadow. Where are we here? I still have to pull up. I keep this one document handy. I do that so I can find it. Now, this is the link to Shadow and Sun stream. Okay, so drop in, give them a listen, do subscribe to the channel, and share the daylights out of the thing. Okay. Now, on the plus side, everybody is born. Every child I've ever run into is born with a phenomenal imagination. This is how we operate. But about the time the people are 4, maybe 5 years old, they are taught by virtually everybody, by most parents and much of society. Oh, son or daughter, depending on what applies. Okay. It's like, oh, you've got such a wonderful imagination, kiddo. Now grow up and start acting like an adult. This would lead one to believe that adults don't have an imagination. Well, we are on gaming night. I'm telling you, Gary Gygax, one of the creators of Dungeons and Dragons, okay, was not 4 years old when he invented Dungeons and Dragons. This said, Stan Lee was not only 4 years old when he started drawing for Marvel. Somehow I think he was a little older than that. Adults have an imagination, but we've got to realize that adults and that imagination has to be implemented. Kylie, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Now, you can continue reading the documents about what history was like. And I encourage you absolutely do so. Keep in mind that many of those documents tell you what the author of that document desired you to see. They call it advertising in today's world. Okay? But it's up to you to decide whether to buy into it. Now, I will tell you, look back in my old videos. You'll notice that the clutter in this room used to be mind-boggling. Okay, I still find it a little much, but I imagined my room, my office being a little bit less cluttered. Do you think that happened just by thinking about it? Because you talk to some people and their philosophy, oh, thinking about doing something is as bad as doing it. Let me point something out, shall we? Okay, if thinking about doing something is as bad as doing it, in practical terms, this series, the Yldrbac Chronicles, talks about the world going completely to a collapsed state. Now, I've already thought about it. Okay, now I agree, the world's in a bit of a mess. But you notice we don't have a whole bunch of aliens running around on the planet. We don't have a whole bunch of dead people all of a sudden storming the streets. Brain dead, probably. But actually physically dead, no. Again, if you take a look at it, okay, I'm not the only one that has written a post-apocalyptic story. Okay, there are phenomenal artists out there, phenomenal, authors, many of which have published. And yet with all that thinking about bringing the world to an end, so far, I'm not sure, but I just don't see anybody outside my window, hopefully not out yours. Actually, in all fairness, I wouldn't mind seeing it outside your window. I don't see people lining up on the street and going, hocus pocus, boom, and now you got fireball all over the neighborhood. Can you picture what state the government of this world would be in? I mean, all around the world. If we have mages that were capable and implementing fireballs, lightning bolts at the drop of a hat. Okay, for those of you that are gamers, okay, that play Dungeons and Dragons, how many times have you thought you looked at somebody that was insulting you, and what's the first thing you do? You fireball the poor freak, or you hit them with a magic missile. This doesn't happen in today's world. And for those of you that are technological, we've got Shadowrun, okay, where people are grabbing these neat little weapons and just blowing the daylights out of each other. And yet, we don't have a bunch of dead people walking around due to some religious nut going, oh, you shouldn't have died, so we're going to raise you so you can carry on with your life. This doesn't happen, people. But what does happen, okay, what does happen? Nathan, how you doing? Glad you could join us. And I'm presuming you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off again at work. And this is the link to Nathan's live show. And here we go. Nathan's live show. And give him a listen. If you like what he says, give him a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel and share the daylights out of the thing. It is by sharing these links that we are going to build a network. Well, we've already started building a network around the world. Okay. I believe it was Joe Stewart from in here that turned around and was the one that pointed out that we're already global. That my free newsletter is already global because it's already in Australia. Okay, now I might be mistaken on who it was that pointed that out. The important factor here is I imagine this empire now. I'm basically broke. Okay, just let's be clear on that. And yet I'm talking about building an empire. Okay, building an internationally available newsletter. I've already done that. I talked about doing it. It's already in print. Okay, and it's 100% free. You know, the fact of the matter is, when I talk about doing something, I imagine it first. Okay, I absolutely imagine what I'm looking for. Then I put it to paper. Then I put it on track. Okay, and this is the same method I've been using for years. This is why I say I know it works. Okay, and again, we have that neat little thing, clipboard with a list of things I've got to get done. Okay, got a bunch of today I just about did nothing. Curiosity, Nathan. Okay, and you don't really have to give me an answer on this one. Just a curiosity thing. Am I gearing up for Saturday? I'm going to try and be there for Saturday's panel anyway. I just need to know whether I'm gearing up for Saturday itself for the early part of the show. But that is entirely up to you. I'm just trying to get my schedule organized, which, in case you haven't noticed, doesn't always work that well. But when you start imagining your world, take a look at your world, not mine, not what other people think it should be. Okay. Take a look at what you feel is going on with your world. Are you content with the way it is? Now, I will tell you, there are many people that will tell you if you don't believe exactly what they believe, oh, you're going to hell. What are we here? Yeah, that's not a problem there at all, Nathan. I will still see what I can do. It really depends on energy levels anyway. Yesterday, I slept a staggering amount. I almost got 8 hours of sleep. I think I got 7.5. Which for me is like 3 days worth of sleep. But when we start imagining the world that we're living in, ask yourself this: are you content with listening to people telling you the world's going to end? We are going to suffer massive famine. If thinking about it is as bad as doing it, would the entire world not be in a massive food shortage right now? Okay, with the food shortage that people keep talking about, does it not make sense? Exactly. That's just it, Joe. And get this. Now, I'm still a firm believer that 90 to 95% of people, on the whole, are decent people, are honestly striving to make this world better, at least around them. This means between 5 and 10% are being very selfish, very short-sighted. That means, and this is just basic math, don't take my word for it. Okay, do not take my word for it. Do your own calculations. Do your own research. But if 90% of people are decent, this means that you're looking at approximately, out of 8 billion, you're looking at something in the neighborhood of about 7.2 billion people are really decent people. Only about 800 million are badly screwed up. And yet, when you look at the social media, not the mainstream media, okay, social media, Facebook, TikTok, Mastodon, LinkedIn, you name it, there's a lot more of them. Twitter's another one. YouTube. Why are so many things that are being posted? Why are they who shot who ripped who off, who murdered who, and who embarrassed somebody the most? Whereas that's 5 to 10% of what happens. 90 to 95% of what happens is good. If you take a look at the number of people around the world involved in wars, involved in wars, involved in hurting people, the negative drug deals, etc. If only 5 to 10% of them are doing the negative, why are you reading and reposting so much on the negative side instead of that other, the other 90%? The celebrations, the weddings, the graduations. This is the thing we have to take a look at. Well, I guess technically you don't have to look at it. What is that? So when we're looking at the world, it's a question of what you're going to put your effort into. Now, if you can imagine a world where people talk to each other and smile at each other and literally go out of their way to help each other, then working together, we can make this happen. Now there are a few areas I don't go into here. But I will tell you, if you're interested in hearing my actual take on things like the religious field, I won't deal with it on air here. However, if somebody out there desires to confront me about it or to debate religion, politics, whatever, absolutely, give me a call. Don't make the mistake of asking me to research anything, because I'm not going to. But you want me to tell you my take on something? Absolutely. Oh, Raven goes, I have a 3-legged raccoon named Willie who's living in my garage and refuses to leave. I decided to give up on having a normal life, and I'm surrendering to the chaos. Well, now I gotta ask. I gotta ask, Raven, because I'm curious. He's got 3 legs, but did he lose a front one or a back one? Because that makes all the difference in the world to a raccoon. And, the other thing we have to realize is, especially if you think of the whole concept of chaos, the universe is absolutely in a stable orbit. It's in a stable, logical organization. That can be proven by simply, again, do your own research. But from what I gather, the construction of the atom, the construction of the human genome, the construction of the universe, the galaxy, the universe at large, are all configured identical. Now, this is one heck of a random event. You want random, you want chaos. That's where every corporeal individual, and non-corporeal for that matter, was gifted with free will and free choice. What you weren't gifted with was freedom of consequence. Now, you got to remember, whatever you're being told. The back leg, I mean, I'm really, in all fairness, Raven, I'm really happy that you've let him stay put, because a raccoon with that kind of hiccup is going to have trouble surviving. Now all we got to do is find out if you're actually feeding him. Whoa. What do we do? Chaos happened the moment, Raven's asking, how did chaos happen? Chaos happened the moment that everybody was given free will and free choice. And they made the stupid move, and I call it stupid. Well, it was really an ignorant move. At this point, it's stupid. But they jumped to the conclusion that free will and free choice meant they could get away with anything. What they weren't given was freedom from consequence. So yes, you can do what you will. You want a prime example of it? And I'm going to keep it to the walking side of things. Inside a mall, you'll notice most people will walk down a mall on one side of the mall, they'll walk down the other side, go in the other direction. Okay. Well, he's just making it home there, Raven. Oh, by the way, how did chaos happen? You let a raccoon stay in your garage. He didn't actually get the message on how he was supposed to clean up after himself. But no, with free choice and free will, you can, if you're walking through the mall, you want chaos, walk down against the traffic. Okay, you won't hurt anybody. Okay, unless you're running down and doing something really silly. But chaos comes from people going, I've got free will, I'm entitled to do what I please. And dang the torpedoes, full steam ahead, I'm just going to ignore the side effects. Remember that thing about karmic law. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Okay, of course, we have to realize that not everybody is going to see the world exactly the same way. Although I will warn you, everybody I've ever spoken to in any species, any race, all desire the same thing. They desire to be treated with respect. They desire a secure roof over their head, food on the table. They desire to be accepted as they are. And rest assured, aside from one little issue, okay, if what you're doing is hurting other people, then no, quite frankly, this is not, in my world, acceptable. Okay. You know, the reality of the situation that we are facing on this world is we can reorganize it in spite of the leaders. Okay, in spite of the so-called spiritual guides. I'm telling you, across the board, and I have not seen a religion that doesn't do this. They talk about, whoa, how you doing? Glad you could join us. You know, across the board, they talk about, oh, our God, our supreme deity loves everybody, except the people that don't believe in exactly what we believe in. And this is across the board, which is precisely why I say no religion, no spiritual path is better than the next. Now, there are individual churches, individual temples, individual covens where they are doing things in an effective fashion. Okay, don't kid yourself on that one. But it is imperative that we quit looking to the so-called icons of this world and go, it's their fault that the world's a mess. Look in the mirror. Have you done anything of a negative front? Have you ever looked at a negative article? Okay, I remember reading in the Chicago Tribune one day. It was priceless. Okay, now, I mean, in one sense, you look at it, it was a terrible incident. But what the headline said was, and this is what I mean by the news reports what they see or what they choose. The headline on this article, okay, and I think it was on the front page, but I'm not 100% certain on that. The headline said, 2 shot dead after police respond to a domestic abuse call. Now, I'm not sure, but to my way of thinking, I looked at this and went, well, that's one way of solving the problem. But again, I asked why the way that reads says the police pulled the trigger. The reality of it is that is not likely what happened. Okay. And of course, in the same newspaper, I read an article that said massive rise in violent marijuana addicts. Now, I'm not entirely certain. Okay, but I used to breathe marijuana all the time. Okay, And I can't see how anybody can become violent while they're addicted to marijuana. Okay, you just don't have the drive for it. But imagine a world where people listen to what's going on and go, nope, doesn't make sense. I'm not passing that news on. Oh, look, I've got a choice between reading about a murder or reading about a birth. I'm going to push the murder aside. It's not that they don't happen. It's that unless you start looking at what is going on in a positive nature, you're going to keep drawing the negative to you. Okay. Now, I have turned around myself. I used to be excessively reclusive. Okay. Now I am getting out and going, I'm getting out, doing my best to kind of step out of the shadows and tell people, look, the way we're living our life isn't working. The path that we are following right now is failing miserably, unless you're intending on the world to collapse, at which point you're playing it perfectly. Okay, and this is why I tell you. Oh, storm goes. Eventually, even change can become boring. You know, the one funny part there is change is the only constant in existence. Okay, and as somebody put, I believe it was Joe, put it, change is the only path to success. You know, yeah, I'm just looking at this. Raven's gone, it's not been my experience. I think I would enjoy having a boring day. And once in a while, it's really nice. Today, I spent probably 6 hours close to playing Skyrim. I got absolutely jacked done aside from over lunch. But once you start imagining your world as improving, okay, every one of you have had obstacles throughout your life. Okay, some of you more volatile than others, but every one of you has the option of looking to the past and going, okay, I can't do a thing about how I got here, but I can take a look to the future and not repeat what I did. Okay, if you look at your own past, and this is all society has to do, look to your own past and stop repeating the process. Like, how many of you have you ever heard of somebody, you put your hand on a burner? Okay, so yeah, burn your hand, you pull it off, ow, that hurt. Put your hand back on the burner, burn your hand again, ow, that hurt. And you keep doing this. Most people, sooner or later, figure out this is a bad idea. Most do. But society on the whole seems to go, hey, if we treat the poor people like second class citizens and we tax the daylights out of the people that don't have the money, hey, this is going to work out well. It worked out so nicely in Rome. Okay, they taxed the people to death, treated the people with money like absolute gems. And after they started throwing people in jail, they decided to teach them they carried on treating them like garbage and then taught them how to fight. Now, I don't know, I spent 40 years in the Roman Senate trying to convince these geniuses, you do that, you got a problem. And yet here we are 2,000 years later, and we are doing the exact same thing. Okay, the poor people are being taxed to death. Then when they complain, they get thrown in prison. But they don't get taught how to bypass the problem. They get thrown in with a bunch of other people. And the people that are in the positions of power are not cluing in. Okay, it is absolutely amazing how few people actually realize if you keep putting people together. Okay, now they figured out marketing. Okay, you take two people, put them in separate rooms. Okay, Each one on average will come up with 2 ideas each, okay, in separate rooms. Do your own math. 2 plus 2. We got 4 ideas. However, they figured this out, okay, in a corporation. You take 2 people, okay, put them in the same room, they both come up with 2 ideas, and net result, they end up between them, they'll trigger a 5th. Okay, marketing math simply stated 2 plus 2 equals 5. Now, take that same idea and imagine what happens. Take 2 criminals with no guidance, put them on their own. They'll continue thinking in the same way because that's all they've got to do. That's all they got to work with. Put them in the same room and they will, working together, quite often just because they're looking at their own world, they will come up with a new idea. Okay. Yeah, we're right. You know, that game you're talking about, Worm Armageddon, was one of those mini games. I used to play that with my older brother. You know, but you take criminals, put them all in one place with no education and no treatment to show them how to treat each other. And all of a sudden, well, I don't know, 2 plus 2 equals 5. What does 200 plus 200 add up to? Using the same math. Now you've got 500 different ways to break the law. Not a good recipe, and yet people are missing it. Now, picture if you will. Okay. Yeah, Will goes, yep, I'm an old school gamer. I'm not an old school gamer. I started gaming in 1976. Okay. Now, I will tell you, 1976, I started playing Dungeons and Dragons. But guess what, guys? Before that, okay, before we had Dungeons and Dragons, we had cowboys and Indians. Outside, they grab a stick, you pretend that's a gun, okay, or grab a stick and pretend that's a sword. In today's world, we still have the SCA, Society for Creative Anachronism. Okay, now, I mentioned this a number of times. Okay, I do not go to church myself. Okay, and yet I will consistently send people back to church or back to a temple or to a coven. Doesn't matter. The only thing I suggest is make certain whoever is leading the group that you're going to spend time with, make sure they are living by their own guidelines. Now, I'm quite ready to tell people that, absolutely, I am not soft-spoken. Subtlety is not my strong suit. And this is why I say, if you've got a question, even if it's not in the same topic, come right out and ask. Okay, put it in the chat room, bring it up in all caps, preferably so I can find it, or partial caps, or even for that matter, okay, just put that neat little wavy hand. Something to get my attention. Because in this stream, we are not talking about that being yelling. We are talking about simply getting my attention. Much like in school, you were taught as a child, you want to ask the teacher something, put your hand up. Okay, that just simply got the teacher's attention. Oh, the one that has the people left standing. See, this is why I never fail in engaging which sports team is going to work. In a battle between, well, actually, in all fairness, given that you said demons, okay, here's the problem. Demons are a construct. Jinn are a race. Now, the real kicker to it is this. I'm not going to tell you which one wins because whoever has the people standing when the rest aren't, there's your winner. Oh, Shadow, thank you so much for sharing your time with me, with us. Absolutely enjoy the game. Go and have a hoot. And we will see you again tomorrow. sports section. And it literally tells you, okay, when you're looking at, when you're looking at the sports section, the team that gets points wins. The team, in individual sports, the individual, the individual that gets the most points crosses the time to the finish line fastest, lifts the most weight. There's your winner. Okay. The nice part of things is when we are taking a look at this world, if you can imagine something, you can, for the most part, create it. But I'm going to warn you, imagine flying without any sort of aerial conveyance. Absolutely, let your mind do it. Do not confuse imagination with reality. Okay, and the reason for that is you may not believe in gravity, but I'll tell you, you don't have to for it to screw up your circulation. Joe's going, spring will be here soon where I'm at. Hopefully the snow is done for the season so my backyard can start blossoming again. I like to sit out there on the trail by myself and enjoy it in the evening. Absolutely agree. I mean, up here, I think we've had the end of our snow. Okay. I'm quite happy we're in the single digits above zero now. We're not even getting a whole lot of rain here. But the important thing I do not see you in here very often. Spaced Out Radio is in the house. And I do have to do this. Where are we? How's it going there, Dave? This is the link to Spaced Out Radio. So with that in mind, drop in, give him a listen. Do give him a thumb. If you like what he has to say, give him an absolute thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel and share the daylights out of the thing. Okay. There is a heck of a party coming up in May. I am fully intending on being there. I've already got tickets bought for it. So this year, for the third time in a row, I've been invited. This year, I will be there. And again, I'm just going to clear something up. Jinn are definitely pre-Islamic. Jinn are pre-human. Okay, that would be the real kicker to it. And this is why I say, I don't research, I work from memory. When you're looking at things like that, they're definitely pre-Islamic. Because they got here, they came into existence before humans were even a concept. Okay, so they're pre-Islamic. But do not make the mistake of assuming that everything written into any one of the religious tomes is based on what they did of their own accord. Mankind has a wonderful creative streak to them. Okay, they absolutely have a wonderful creative streak. Okay, let me ask you this, just to put that whole little concept into in perspective. Okay, who created the mountains? Did mankind, when they first came across Mount Kilimanjaro, did they create the mountain by writing about it, or was it already there? And this is why I say, when I'm looking at these books, okay, you have to ask yourself, Races of the Worlds. Okay, it has 59 races in it I've personally dealt with. Now, I'm also a science fiction writer. Okay, science fantasy writer. So, am I writing, and you get to answer this question because I really can't. Oh, that's just it, Will. We don't go in, and the reason I'm not going down that road, you get to figure out, is this a work of imagination, or is it simply a work of passing on information I've run into? Okay. Same as this series here. Okay. Is this strictly imagination, or is this a rendition of what I've seen? You get to figure that out. And you can debate that until the cows come home. The fact of the matter is, imagination does govern where our world is going. Woo, I keep trying to come down with that. But I've added so much to it and run into so many hiccups. Last year, as in 2023, was a near categorical write-off. Okay, I have begun final edit on it and final edition. I've already got the pictures for it, so they are being installed. Am I going to give you a definitive time frame? No, but I am working, and that is one of my primary drives right now, as far as writing projects go. I was writing way too many at the same time, and too many things got sidetracked for a lot of reasons, not the least of which was too much stress. Okay, but when you start looking at the world and you start asking yourself, do you believe in something because you read it? Or do you believe in something because you experienced it? Now, there's lots of people that will tell you, I like the one. This was great. There is a young lass in the States that made a very big, very important video. She declared beyond a shadow of a doubt that we have a massive shortage happening because apparently, according to her, according to one person, we are running out of gravity. Now, just picture what that means to the world at large. And remember, thinking about something is as bad as doing it. So how many of you walk out your front door and instead of putting your feet on the ground, end up walking off the top of the roof? Because, oh, look, you're rising. There's no gravity anymore. Because we're now having brownouts on gravity. How many times have you bumped your head on the ceiling lately? It is the side effect of letting your imagination get ahead of you. And I'm not debating whether or not people require a common ground to work with. But we've got to realize that just because it is common ground does not mean it's accurate. Okay, let's face it. It used to be centuries back, like we're talking lots of centuries back, used to be believed that the earth was flat. Okay, now there's still a lot of people in today's world that still believe it. Still working on that one. Joe's going, now here's something I never told anyone. When I was young, I slept out in the woods a lot. And the neat part there is I'm betting dollars to donuts. You did that because you chose to, not because you had to. Now, I've met millionaires that don't have a house because of the fact they choose not to have it. This does not mean everybody living on the street is there by personal choice. It means some are. Now, I never slept in the woods. I mean, that's not entirely correct. Okay, I did go camping with my parents. But I never slept out in the woods on my own. If I had, I'd have never come home. Not because I didn't want to go home, but because I couldn't find it. If you imagine a world where we are constantly staying in conflict, let me ask you this. Which do you rather read about? Okay, would you rather read about on the front page what country went to war? What business mogul embezzled what? Or what politician did something of a negative nature? Or would you rather read about what sports team won? What person got married? Who graduated? What is better news in your eyes? Okay, imagine a world where that's what you get. Okay, now when I was younger, I imagined a newspaper or a magazine that didn't tell you everybody was going to die. Okay, now I imagined it, I put it on paper, I now have it available. It's also known as positive perspectives. If you look at the link at the top of the chat, you'll find a way to get at it. And it is 1% free. Speaking of which, I've got to, where is my list here? Well, as we know, I do this. Well, I have this neat little sheet of paper. There we are. That one. See, I keep a clipboard handy, because, well, frankly, I'm a dinosaur. But this clipboard, I can make notes for myself so I can make sure I get to them. So I'm just making there's a couple of people that I've got to get a hold of regarding making things happen. But can you imagine a world where we are not inundated with the world's going to end? Or here's the newest pill. You can drop weight by sitting on your backside and doing absolutely nothing except taking a pill. You can gain phenomenal muscle by doing nothing but thinking about it. Okay. I mean, it sounds great, but it's a beautiful imagination. When we take a look at it, what you're building your world on, if it is based on your imagination, you may find that your imagination doesn't work out quite as well, because there's a big difference between what you imagine and what really is going to happen. Okay. And I'm telling you, there are ideas people come up with that, it's just phenomenal. Let's make things. Where are we? Iowax, how you doing? Didn't see you come in. Of course, you've only been here for a moment. Iowax is going summer pink, summer orange. Never know what you'll find if you shine and you don't know who's watching, but they're watching close. Never know what you find if you shine. Now, I'm guessing there, Iowax, when you say you've got a lyric library, I presume this means you've got a whole pile of songs available. But can you imagine a world where you are accepted for being you? In this chat room, I do my best to make it safe for everybody, and this is where the moderators come in. Okay, because the reality is there are certain topics we don't deal with here. Okay, but I imagined a magazine that doesn't produce negative information. As a focal point, negative things happen, absolutely, and people do make miscalculations. But why should people be buried for making a mistake, and for doing something legitimately a mistake, meaning for whatever reason they didn't know better? And that may seem absolutely bizarre, but in my opinion, if you are doing something because you didn't know better, okay, it's what I call true ignorance. Okay, if you know better and you do it anyway, especially if it's detrimental to yourself, quite frankly, it's stupidity in my eyes. And I know stupidity is a bad word. Somebody's going to take offense to it. Well, I will tell you, somebody will take offense to you calling the sun yellow. I got a kick out of it the other day. I heard reports that this one person was absolutely pushing to have the name Blacktop changed. The blacktop, the tarmac out at the airports, or what we drive on called roads. They said it upsets black people. I'm thinking, like, not any of the ones I've talked to, and I've talked to a fair chunk of them. I find most people look at the road and go, it's a road. More commonly, they will complain about the potholes. Okay, but imagine your world running more smoothly. Imagine your environment being clear of clutter. Guaranteed. And there ain't much I'll guarantee. But you think about your room clearing itself up. See how well that works. because I'm laying odds you're going to have to get off your feathers and move the stuff around yourself. Okay, but if you don't plan it out, it's not going to work out as well as you might think. Now, by all means, like I've said, I will send people to go to various different areas. Find people of a like mind to get the support you require, mentally and emotionally speaking. Absolutely imperative. Absolutely imperative. Yeah, there's an idea. We're no longer going to call them potholes. Because Carrie A was going, let's not call them potholes anymore. Because that word refers to drugs. And we'll encourage our youth to smoke more marijuana. That's not a bad idea. But I'm not quite certain if that's going to work. I mean, I'm all for it as far as I'm concerned. Mind you, I'm all for the way that William Shakespeare put it. A rose by any other name will smell as sweet. A pothole by any other name will still take the bottom out of your car. By the way, there's these other things called sinkholes that are a lot bigger, and they'll just swallow your car whole. But we got to realize, people look at, when I'm talking about imagination creating reality, and you're looking at creating a different reality than what you're used to, we got to realize it is not just your imagination you're up against. Okay, your imagination is going up against everybody else combined on the planet. Okay, it is a cooperative effort. Now, with that said, if everybody is focusing on the negative, okay, then that's what we as a society, as a global community, are starting to create. In case you hadn't noticed, it's working like a charm. Now, this is why I said we've got to start looking at this and start focusing on the idea of a positive interaction, of smiling at each other, communicating with each other, regardless of skin color, regardless of any of it. I love Vertigo. It's always fun. Not. Anyway, with that in mind, okay. Oh, Henry, I don't know if you're aware of this. Of course, I'm not entirely certain where you're from. But over here in Canada and the US, marijuana was called pot. Okay. AKA cannabis became pot, which is great. I frankly have nothing against it. I just have never seen a violent drug addict, a violent marijuana addict. Seen a lot of marijuana addicts, just none of them violent. Unless you count the munchie attack. Okay. At which point it can get pretty dicey for them. But when we look at the imagination, you've got to imagine what is the world going to look like if we continue on the path we're on. Tell you what, just to bring that into perspective, given that we are still doing the same thing that we did 100 years ago and are still doing the same thing that we did 2,000 years ago, the outcome is pretty cut and dried. Take a look at the collapse of Rome. The world is heading down the same road. Now, it doesn't have to get there, but that's up to you guys. Okay, I can offer all the tools on the planet. Okay, all the tools that I'm aware of. But all the best tools in the world are absolutely useless. Them up and use them. Okay, one of the biggest things we have to realize is that when you take a look at the way this world is, you've got to decide: are you going to let the social media and the general public tell you what your world's going to look like? Or are you going to start adjusting your own thinking, your own actions to become the success you feel you deserve to be. Now, I will tell you this, okay, and it's just about where I can start working on it again. But these 4 words, I am worth it, the 4 most powerful words in combination in any language I've ever come across, okay, regarding rebuilding self-esteem, self-worth, self-motivation, self-actualization. You get the picture? Okay. And that's where this came in. Believe in yourself and follow your dreams. This tells you literally how the tools I actually use myself to take myself from being excessively reclusive, hiding in the shadows, hiding from people, and frankly hiding from life, to what I am now. You know, a loudmouth, self-opinionated, outspoken individual. And I still refuse to swear at people unless I get mad. Okay. But it's up to you what kind of a world you imagine your life evolving into. You can absolutely stay connected to the negative past. Okay. You can absolutely look to the negative past and go, you can look to the negative past and you can go, that's what we've got because that's what's been going on for thousands of years and that's what we're used to. You can absolutely stay focused on that. The question is, why would you? Some of you have gone through some phenomenally horrendous paths. Your choice is the easy part, like knowing what the choice is. Okay, making the choice happen is where the complication comes in. Okay, now whatever brought you to the world you're in right now, to the state you're in, whether you're financially strapped, spiritually exhausted, emotionally wiped out, or materialistically completely hooped, however you got there, the odds are you didn't get there overnight. Okay, I mean, we have 600 subscribers right now, one of which I know of that had their life turned upside down overnight. The rest of you took time to get there, myself included. Okay, but I decided I didn't like the way my world was going. I also took into consideration that so many people have told me, Joe goes, is that actually possible? The thought just came to me, building a human fort with just pieces of wood. The answer is, Christine, how you doing? Glad you could join us. The answer there, Joe, absolutely. Now, I can't tell you the site, but I stumbled across it on the internet the other day. They showed, let's see if I can find it just on principle. I'm just typing in wooden bridge built with no nails. Built with no nails. Now I stumbled across it because I don't do a whole lot, and there we are. Okay. Let's see. I'm just gonna pop a link up here. I'm hoping it'll work. Okay. Hopefully that will take you where we desire it to go. That is a link to a page that shows you a number of bridges built by man with absolutely no nails. There we have it. Rest assured, 5 years ago, I didn't ever even found this, even if I looked. Okay, but hopefully that link works. I don't know if it did or not, because I'm not about to try it just in case it backfires. But I just pulled that off the net itself. Whoop. There we go. Now, bear in mind, if a bridge can be built, a bridge has a specific purpose. Okay, a fort, as a matter of fact, come to think of it, I was looking at a prefab building. There's a company now making what looks like Lego blocks made out of wood and insulation to build a house that you literally plug it together just like you do Lego. The human race has a staggering capacity for imaginative engineering. To this day, they can still make incredible, they can make incredible connections, okay, and creations. Even though many people seem to think it's not possible, imagination is for the little people. Oh, perfect. There you go, Joe. This is what I mean by working together. We can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Okay. And again, here we have a situation. Here's a question. If I can pull up an answer, I will. Now, I don't research, which is why I didn't know whether that was going to work. But I'm glad it did there, Joe. But if you can imagine it, it can be built. It may take extra time. Okay, you may not have the technology, at which point you'll have to figure that out or find somebody that did. Okay, but get your head on straight. If you desire the world to be different, it's time to make it different. It's time to focus on that. Now, many of you have gone through some absolutely horrendous things. Okay, your childhood may well have been mind-bogglingly abusive. And the reality of it is, if it was, the odds are you didn't see it as such because of the fact it's all you knew. Okay, what I am and what I've returned for is to help you realize what you went through was not imagination. Okay, imagination does not leave burn holes in your arm. It does not leave broken bones. Now, granted, imagine something strong enough, and you can create all kinds of havoc. Okay, but you imagine something strongly enough, you can also heal staggering amounts. I finally decided on a number of things, but the one thing I have come to understand is there is so much misinformation out there. Okay, regardless of your belief structure, make certain it rings true. Okay, now I will tell you, I'm not going into the details of it. My father, when he was on his deathbed, asked me to make sure I read this cover to cover. That'll be your Bible. Okay, I grew up in the church. I'm not telling you which one's better. I'm telling you they're all the same. I know that's going to set somebody off. But as my father used to say, read it cover to cover yourself, aka do your own research. Do not make the mistake of assuming that everything you're being told or you're being guided to. Do not make the mistake of assuming it's all absolutely as you're told. Okay, I mean, let's face it. We can go back over all sorts of things, not the least of which was it used to be believed that the sun revolved around the earth, that the Scottish clans would never unite, the United States, the colonies would never combine and become a country. Okay, things change. Point in fact, let's just only go back however old you are. I'm betting dollars to donuts when you were a child, when you were first born. Number one, you didn't walk. And number two, you probably filled your drawers every time you had the desire to do so. With a little bit of luck, you're now walking and not filling your drawers wherever you're walking. Because theoretically, you've learned that there are different ways of doing things. Okay, yes, I'm definitely bucking the system by saying, hey, look, you've got a brain. How about if you put it to use? How about if we focus on what you can do? And as I've told dozens of people, if not hundreds, don't bother me with what I can or can't do. There's an old saying, those of you that say it can't be done, would you please step aside while those of us that are doing it complete the job? Okay, the United States military, my understanding is they've got a really neat saying, and I don't know which branch it is, or if it's all the branches, but they've got this neat saying from what I gather that goes, the difficult we're already doing. The impossible simply takes us a little longer. Okay, now let's look at that word impossible. And this is where the imagination and linguistics go head to head. Impossible, meaning not possible, unless you break it, at which point it becomes I'm possible. Okay, now you've heard the idea that if somebody can do it, anybody can. I am living proof of a number of anomalies, not the least of which, if you want to go to extremes, is the fact that as you get older, the simple one, as you get older, your eyes don't have to collapse. Okay. And it's not just a case of, oh, you got to get the right medication. You've got to get, what you do have to get is proper diet. And that means what is working. Much more importantly, you got to get the mindset straight that these are a tool to assist. Okay. Now, the reality is, I go back 10 years, if I held my glasses right there, I couldn't physically see them. Now, my eyesight is coming back up where I can actually read quite comfortably. Okay. Of course, the medication I was taking did a number on that. What do we got here? One of the nice parts about this world is there is very little limit on what we as a society can do. I'm not talking as a society, okay, as just the country you're living in. I'm talking as a human society, a global community. Because I will tell you, the Aborigines in Australia know things about natural medicine that Westerners haven't got a clue about. Many of the elders of the so-called First Nations also have a staggering knowledge. And rest assured, the pagan community has spent decades learning about herbalism, whereas modern science keeps trying to regulate it and go, if we didn't create it, it doesn't work right, which is really kind of neat. But check your own research on that. If you can imagine something working better, absolutely start working on it. Start making minor changes, one step at a time. Okay, because that one step at a time, that one little shift, we're told that change is difficult, it's painful, it's frightening. I'll ask you this. Anybody in the chat room right now writhing on the floor in absolute unmitigated anxiety, tension, strain, are any of you in absolute pain? Because every time you have a thought, every time you hear something, see something, doesn't matter. It's all change. And if you're not writhing on the ground in absolute agony, then change can't be that painful. Okay, now your stubborn streak may be a royal pain in the neck. And absolutely, if you've grown up in a way where every time you tried one thing, it always blew up on you. Okay, absolutely, you're going to be edgy about it. Now, the only thing I can tell you from my end is when I tell somebody I'm going to do something, okay, one way or the other, as long as we don't rely on the actual finances to get things done, as far as the time frame goes, one way or the other, I'm going to make it happen. Okay, and like I've told you guys, I will be in Reno for the event from May 10th to 12th. Okay, I will absolutely talk to whoever is there. Okay, assuming I'm not dead to the world. That is excluding May 8th and May 13th. Those 2 days I'll still be there, but they are relegated for one individual and one individual only. Okay, so just keep that clear, but that leaves me there for 4 days where I'm quite open to talking to whoever. Of course, the morning of the 14th is going to be a write-off because I got to head home. But when people ask me a question, I absolutely will give you a dead honest answer. Okay, now that answer may not be what you're looking for. Okay, and you can absolutely, I challenge you to do this one. Imagine me all of a sudden developing a sense of tact. That'll be fun. See how well that works by you imagining me developing a sense of tact. See how quickly that takes place. I'm not sure if I'd be putting a whole lot of weight behind it. But let me ask you this. If there was one thing in the world you would like that you can imagine happening, that you would like to see happen, what would it be? Okay, I know where my mind stands. This is why the magazine is happening. This is why the publishing company is growing. Okay, because I made the decision it's going to happen. There's a lot of people have, it's funny. A lot of people have tried to convert me from my belief into various different religions. Now I've mentioned, I've been very adamant about it. I believe in God, I believe in Christ. Okay, I've had the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Mormons both try to convert me. I even had a Catholic priest try and convert me from Protestant. It doesn't work well. I mean, heck, the day I ran into God, it didn't work well for him either. And you can decide if that makes me completely off my nut or so far on track that it's hard to work with. Okay, now the fact of the matter is this. If you're not content with the world you're living in, with the state your house is in, with the condition that your social environment is, if you're not content with it, who are you going to call? I'm guessing it ain't going to be the Ghostbusters. I'm pretty certain that if you're not content with your world, okay, you're the one that's going to have to get up and do something about it. Now, in reality, what you've got to look at is it going to change overnight? Certainly not. Okay. Now, I've been working with, now, here's a neat little piece of information. I started producing my magazine, Positive Perspectives. I had one subscription back in July of last year. Okay. Now that's in 7 months. We've gone from one to, what have I got? I just gotta get my one box here. In 7 months being 200, 7 months being 200 and what? Yeah, pulling a blank there. 7 times 30, 210 plus another 8, another 9. So, In 7 months, we went up 219%. 200, we're up to 219%. Well, I guess that is. We went from 1 to 219 in 7 months. Now, if we take the 52, 60, 52 and 9 is 61. 61 times 219. If we were to grow at that level, okay, that's a 219% increase. Now, if we continue at that rate, and I'd love to see this happen, but I'm going to have to talk to somebody about automating it at that point, because 219 times 61 would mean in 7 months we'd be looking at a circulation of 13,359. Don't take my word for it. Run the numbers yourself. Okay. Do your own research. But ask yourself, does it make sense that sticking to the path you're currently on, does it make any rational sense at all in your mind that that your life is going to change if you don't do something differently? And for those of you that are still pointing to the so-called elites, to the spiritual leaders and the politicians, you've been blaming them for literally centuries. Now, granted, you guys have only been doing it for decades. Okay, but mankind has been blaming the well-off for centuries for the world in the state it's in. Okay, we've been yelling about it. I did it myself for the longest time. Okay, but how did that work at changing it? Okay, when does it become enough that you're going to start using your imagination to design the world you desire to live in, not the one that everybody tells you have to live in? We can take that a little bit wider or a little more specific. I don't know. When I was growing up, I was told, don't become a writer, don't become don't go into singing, don't become a musician. You can't make money at it. And I'm thinking, like, really? Stephen King, I don't know who the Carpenter chap is. There's a whole pile of authors out there. You take a look at Tolkien. Okay, these are people that wrote. Then you get people like Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones or Kiss. Okay, or we go to the other end, you get Reba McEntire. So many artists are out there singing, okay, and making their money doing the arts. It can be done, but it doesn't happen just because you think about it. It happens because you get off your tail feathers, imagine a world that is better, and make it happen. Okay, but making it happen doesn't occur overnight. Making it happen means you look at that item, and even if you're afraid of it, even if you're edgy, it's going to blow up again. Okay, courage is not lack of fear. Courage is literally action in spite of fear. Okay, if you do not challenge yourself to look at the world in a different fashion, you're not going to make it very far. And I mean, technically, it's possible you could. We got 8 billion people on the planet that have continually tried the same idea. Okay, hasn't worked for them. Now, this doesn't mean it won't work for you, but I'm telling you, with the number of lemmings I've seen run off cliffs, I'm telling you, the poor little guys don't fly. No matter how much they think they will. Running off a cliff for a lemming or for people that are staring at this neat little, now here's a brilliant idea. Here's the zombie apocalypse. Grab hold of one of these things. How many times have you seen somebody walk into traffic because they're looking at this? Okay. You imagine a world that works better than the one you've been living, and all of a sudden what you've got is a world that is different than what you've been living. But if you continue to repeatedly do the same thing over and over again, do not make the mistake of expecting it to turn out differently. Okay. Now, I've ended up, the saying is, I've ended up writing checks, and my mouth has written checks that my body couldn't keep, couldn't cash. And I've done that way too often, which is precisely why I'm not turning around and saying, this is when the next book is out. I will tell you that I've got a lot of things in the fire, probably too many. And that's why, much as I've got 30 some odd books to work on, I've cut working on most of them. The ones I'm working on now are the Yldrbac Chronicles, book 12, really. The third one coming out being Return to Paradise. Races of the Worlds, the second printing. I've got a new novel I've started working on. Well, a new novel that I'm working on. I haven't told anybody much about it. Okay. A joint venture that I'm writing with another author. Okay. And a coloring book based on Races of the Worlds. Okay. These are things I'm working on because I find, and you may as well, if you're only working on one thing, you may find yourself getting bored. Okay. I don't know what boredom is, but then let's face it, I have a tendency of doing way too many things at the same time. Kind of cuts out the option of boredom. Now, let's see. This is Wednesday. Is today Wednesday? No, today can't be Wednesday. Today was Tuesday. I think today's Tuesday, isn't it? Gives you an idea of my day. Just pop that up. Yeah, today's Tuesday. Okay, that's good. So when you look at it, okay, now I've been temporally challenged for a very long time. But one thing I have come to understand, if you do nothing, if you imagine your world is going to be different and you stay sitting on the couch, let me ask you this. You're sitting on the couch, you got your feet up, your coffee in your hand, and you desire the channel to change. So you imagine your channel changing. Okay, no, not allowed to touch the remote, not allowed to ask somebody to make a change, and you're not allowed to get up and change the channel yourself. Just imagine that channel changing. See how well that works for you. I'm laying odds you'll get bored within the first 5-10 minutes at best, especially if you're waiting for a show to come on that you really want to see. Imagination, humans have a staggering amount of it. We can create phenomenal works of art, phenomenal works of technology. And I will not debate that the fact that mankind is reverse engineering things. Mankind gets inspired by watching, believe it's oak, but I could be mistaken. There's a neat little, and I'm sorry, not an horticulturalist. Okay, there's a tree out there that has what looks like little helicopter blades that fall down, and float to the ground. Mankind is inspired by acts of nature. Okay, so it absolutely is known to recreate them. I mean, heck, in high school, actually in late elementary school, we imagined how a volcano would look if it had the right chemicals put together. That imagination created tabletop volcanoes. I'm certain some of you went through that. But again, we imagined it and then we did the work to make it happen. You desire the world around you to improve. Make it happen. Okay? All the laws in the world you will never be able to legislate intelligence, nor will you be able to legislate true kindness. Okay? You can certainly make life miserable by casting laws that many people ignore. But think of this. If you're setting a rule in your own home, Are you setting a rule that you personally follow? Or are you setting a rule that is applying to everybody? Because the moment you start laying down rules that only apply to one group of people, that society will fracture. Okay. And if the new society, if that fractured society does not imagine and implement rules that apply to everybody, including the lawmakers, that society again will fracture. Okay. Now, the reality of it is this: we see this happen all the time. I've spent 37 years as a professional consultant for both home and business. Okay. And the number of people that make the same mistakes as each other is mind boggling. I, for the longest time, wondered how mankind got out of the caves in the first place. And I know there's some of you out there that go, man didn't grow up in the caves. They never started that. They came into existence absolutely fully developed and in the modern world. Okay. That's a wonderful thought, but doesn't make any sense. Let me ask you this. You've got a dream. And I'm talking in generalities because every one of you has your own dream, your own goal, the thing that makes you get up in the morning. Okay. You all have this kind of idea. And the thing we have to remember is that with that idea, you've got the power to make it happen. Now, how many of you remember and it would have been in the early to mid 80s, I think, there was a set of commercials, one that said you've got the power, the other one that said, now what was it? It was called Schoolhouse Rock. Okay, just little shorts that the television moguls used to put on that literally encourage people to get their head out of the sand and start making a better life. And yes, then we got all this legislation in that says you can't do that anymore. But you can't legislate thinking. People are still going to think. I hope. Absolutely, if you don't know where to begin. Now, I could tell you that. I could do this. Okay, I could do like I've seen some authors do. This will give you the secret. This will tell you how to change your life because it's the same method I did. Okay, and I can tell you, buy the book and it'll have all the information. Or I can do this. Buy the book, you'll have the information at hand. But to make it start, get it straight in your own head. First and foremost, you desire your life to change. Okay. Don't worry about when you go to bed. Pick a time to get up in the morning. Okay. Imagine a day full of prosperity, full of accomplishments. Okay. As soon as your eyes focus enough that you can get out of bed. Okay. That you can safely get out of bed. Swing your feet out of bed. Go to the washroom. Do what you have to. Come back. Make your bed. Get dressed in whatever order you feel appropriate. Okay. And then get on with your day. Now, myself, I keep a list handy of things I'm in the process of doing. Okay. The reason for it is because by doing that, I can keep an eye on whether or not I'm getting things accomplished. Now, I know today I got virtually nothing accomplished, but tonight is another story. Because tonight, when I'm done this stream, I've got 3 books to read part of, okay, and a whole pile of writing. I can continue to sit on my back, on my tail feathers, and not do anything, or I can get up and make it happen. My call. Your call to live your life the way you desire. But if you're not going to make the effort to change your life, then understand it's not going to change much because I hate to be the one to pop your bubble. Well, no, I don't. God's not coming down to straighten your life out. The aliens are not coming down to straighten and to bring world peace. Okay. And your mother isn't likely to clean your bedroom. At least, if your mother's anything like mine was, you might want to hope she doesn't come in and clean it. Because my mom had a real brilliant idea. Clean your room up. If you don't do it, I will. This was not a good thing. Okay. I'm sure some of you had that same memory. Okay. The way to make yourself successful is to alter the energy of what you're doing in order to make sure that everything you're working on works towards what you consider success. If you can imagine a world where you are content and you put the effort into it, then frankly, you will have the world you're content with. Now, I absolutely understand the idea that many people turn around, okay, and go, every time I've done this, somebody steps on my fingers. Somebody kicks me in the shins or trips me to make it not work. This is going to make you question why bother putting the effort in. Okay. And I get this a lot of times from people. Because I'll tell people I just flat out don't trust to start with. It's because of what I've been through. And I've had people literally tell me, well, I haven't done anything to you, so you shouldn't paint me with the same brush. Got bad news. What should or shouldn't be done, past history does leave a mark. Okay. And, right off the bat, you will eventually find people that will treat you the way you desire to be treated. But only if one of two things happens. One, you treat people the way you desire to be treated. Or two, the person you connect to or that you connect with is strong enough to continue treating you the way they desire to be treated long enough for you to get your head on straight and realize that that's a doable option. Imagination is wonderful, but the imagination has no concrete stability. Okay, you take a look at this. Before I wrote this, that was my imagination. The idea of having a storyline in print was my imagination. It was a goal with no reality. Now there are 2 books in print, the third one I'm working on. That becomes reality. Imagination plus focused belief and effort equals reality. Now, don't kid yourself. You can imagine flying all over the world with no aerial conveyance. I'm telling you, the odds are not in your favor. Because not only do you have to believe it without question, but you've also got to override everybody else's belief that you can, as to whether you can do it or not. Okay, this is why faith healing works, because the people involved all go, we're going to focus on this person and they're going to heal. Now, I can tell you wholeheartedly that when I was younger, I had a young lass come to me that was stuck in a wheelchair. Okay, I didn't realize for how long she'd been there. I knew I could help remind her body how to heal itself. I knew this without a question. She told me flat out that she didn't, it wasn't that she believed I could. She was there because her mother believed I could. Net result, we pulled her out of a wheelchair. Turned out she'd been in it for 3.5 years. That's because I've got a stubborn streak that is 1.5 miles wide, and I managed to override all the other rules. Oh, you've been diagnosed paraplegic, you're that way for the rest of your life. I didn't believe the doctors. Fortunately, I had a strong enough belief that this young lass could tap into my belief and bolster it. Many of you have the same hindrance. Not that you're in wheelchairs. Okay, but you believe you're stuck with the lot of life you're in. I'm telling you wholeheartedly that is not the case. Now, I will not tell you your life will change overnight, but I will tell you I do have a technique in my own hand. Okay, and I am in the process of putting it to paper that has not only for myself but for literally hundreds of other people. Okay, no clinical, no clinical testing, no documentation, just a simple fact from my end, and you can believe it or not. Okay, that I have given people the tool to quit drinking heavily, to quit smoking cigarettes, and to quit doing drugs. Okay, without withdrawal. And that's the kicker. Now, you don't have to believe it's possible. As a matter of fact, in all fairness, if you believe it's not possible, you're pretty much stuck with the way your life is. You've got to get it through your head that you've got the ability to imagine a new world. Okay, create it in your head. Work out with the assistance of others if required. Work out a way to make it happen. Oh, fantastic, Joe. Fantastic. I just caught that. Joe's just letting us know that his female cat, Gracie, is feeling better. She was at the animal hospital. I take it this means she's home now. So this is great news. Because I'll tell you, from everybody's standpoint, okay, if we're looking at a world where, when you look at pets, in my opinion, it's simple. Pets are simply furry, four-legged or two-legged, feathered or scaled children. Okay, they require just as much attention, sometimes more. Okay, but the real kicker to it, you've got to be able to imagine a world where your life is getting better. Okay, for those of you that are about to embark on a very, very direct challenge to your own belief structure, keep in mind, you're right now likely going through things and going, every time I've reached out, I've gotten burned. Okay, it's always failed. What if it fails? What if it doesn't work out right? Ask yourself the other question. What if it does? Okay, don't take my word for it. Do your own research. Okay, now I've got an advantage over a lot of people simply because I do live life based on the idea that you brace for the worst, plan for the best, and you live for the moment. I don't know how to teach that one. Okay, I really don't. Otherwise, I'd tell you how to do it. For me, it happened because of a fever of 108.4 that flash fried my hypothalamus and hippocampus. I recommend this not being a good path. Okay, not a good one. I mean, in all fairness, he killed me. I'm not recommending you try it. But it is time that we start looking in the mirror and going, what am I not content with? How am I going to make that change? Now, part of it is this neat little concept that people came up with years ago. Dress for success. Meaning, get clothes that make you feel successful, that make you feel financially better off. Okay, or that simply bolster your spirits by looking in the mirror. Sometimes, they say clothing makes the person. Clothing doesn't make the person. If it did, everybody in the military and every private school, okay, and every postman that you see, or every policeman would all behave exactly the same as each other. Ain't the way it works. But what clothing does do is it does enhance your own view of yourself. Okay, it will change the self-image. Absolutely. And now is the time to start making that happen. But you got to remember, imagination does not have substance. Okay, imagination has a very simple problem. Okay, you've got nothing tangible to work with until you start doing the work. Okay, now if we go back 40,000 years, humans used to have an imagination that did work. They'd think about, for instance, a fresh, ripe apple in the palm of their hand. It would manifest. Okay, that's where imagination crosses over to reality. In today's world, we don't, on the whole, have that. Now, there are magicians out there that make it look that way. But for your life to change, you're going to have to be the one getting up and making it happen. You're the one that's going to have to decide, I'm not content with my life this way, so I'm making alterations. It's the way it works. Don't take my word for it. Test it yourself. Sit on the couch and think about the TV or your computer or even your cell phone. Think about it phoning somebody without touching the thing and without moving. Just think about it and see how well that works for you. If it works, this is fantastic. If that works and you can pull it off and videotape it, get a hold of Dave. Get Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio, Nathan over on the Quantum Show, or Raven on the Rabbit Hole, or any number of other people. Okay, but I will warn you: the moment you go public, odds are things are going to get complicated. Okay, that's just the reality of it, and you don't have to believe it. You don't have to take my word for it. Just take it into consideration. Now, it would seem that somewhere along the line, and I was expecting this anyway, I just hit refresh to see what we're up to. Don't want to do that, but when we look at it, the neat part about it is this. Okay, your imagination is the thing that's going to bring images to mind that can help you lay out a change in your reality. But it's going to take effort. Okay, and that's just the thing you're going to have to realize. And in case you hadn't noticed, I was expecting this. Unfortunately, this happens. Okay, this is why I ask people that if you've got a topic that you would like to deal with, absolutely drop me a line. Okay, right now, according to my notes and according to my computer, we have 2 people that are in the chat room. Okay, so and this is to be expected. I'd love to see like what Dave has. Okay, what Dave and many others have with literally hundreds of people in the chat room. Okay, clearly that is not going to happen anytime soon. But it's not about the numbers. It's about the message. It's about people working together and starting to change the world into something more amicable instead of continuing down the path it's been on. But with that in mind, I've got a whole pile of things I'm going to be working on tonight to simply make things happen for me. Okay, the reason I'm here is simply to say this is what I'm working on. This is what has worked for me. But in all fairness, there is a point. Like I said, most people in this world, they talk about desiring a change, but most people do not desire to change themselves, or at least so would appear, because most people don't get off their own tail feathers. Okay, and then wonder why their life stays the way it is. You know, this is just the reality of the way life is. If you desire your world to change, you're the one that's going to have to imagine a better world. Talk to the people around you, get their input into what's possible. And like I've done, okay, ask the people that you know, whether they're strangers, friends, or just simply acquaintances. Doesn't matter. Ask them for their input because it'll be different than your input and may help you in a lot of ways by giving you simply a new perspective. Okay, for me, it boils down to just making the effort to change your life for you, not just thinking about it, but making it happen. Okay, because if you don't make it happen, you can bet your bottom dollar it's not going to. Okay, now hopefully this has made sense. But I do encourage you, like I said, I'm taking this magazine and this live stream and I'm pushing them global. Okay, this is where I'm spending my time. This is my dream. Now, whether or not that coincides with yours, I don't know. If it does, I certainly will ask you once again, if you like the stream, do give us a thumbs up. Do subscribe to the channel and share the daylights out of the thing. We've got to get this message out against the tide. Billions of people, you know, billions of people are listening to the world to others say, we're all going to die. You know, there are billions of people listening to it. Here we have 600-ish. World, how you doing? Glad you could join us. I trust your day has been busier than all get out. Now I gotta find something here. Gotta do this. Okay. This is the link to World Bigfoot's live stream. Whoop. Try that again, shall we? And we copy that. So absolutely drop in, give him a listen. If you like what he has to say, give him a thumbs up, and then subscribe to the channel and share the daylights out of it. That would be really appreciated. The fact of the matter is, World has some phenomenal video regarding Bigfoot. And much as Dave and I disagree on its origin, Dave from Spaced Out Radio, we've agreed to disagree. World, I believe it was World came in and went, oh, by the way, no, they have proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that Sasquatch is not Gigantopithecus, which is what I honestly believed it was. But apparently there is scientific proof stating otherwise. And I will quite readily defer to proven fact over belief. Okay, problem is most of my belief is based on experience that the odds of people coming up with proven fact is going to be problematic. Okay, but the reality of it is, World puts a lot of effort into his videos. I can't imagine the amount of hours that you put into editing yours. I don't edit mine at all. I literally end the stream and let it go to post. Okay, because to my way of looking at it, when I interpret live video, it has all the hiccups, all the glitches, all the technical complications. You don't make it a washover. Now, don't get me wrong. I definitely tip my hat to those of you that have the ability and the drive to do so. Now, that said, what do we got here? Oh, okay. Well, yeah, if you're going to put something on your show, I definitely agree with you, World. Okay. When you're dealing with that, Now, I gotta ask, I know this is supposed to be on your show, but I'm gonna ask it here anyway. You say it's a human hybrid. Did I hear you correctly say that it was a hybrid between human and orangutan? But I do agree with you if a professional with fact. Okay. Any idea what the other half of the hybrid was? The second you bring somebody on air, on your stream that has fact, as in something that is quantifiable, it can be replicated. Okay, you kind of have to back up on the wiggle side. But this is why I will defer to scientists that have proven things. Okay, because my memory is not 100% by any functional stretch, but most of my memory, there's no way I'm going to find proof for it, so I got to go with circumstantial. The neat part about it is that this world is constantly changing. Good night, Steve. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us. And I take it that means we're hitting the 2-hour mark here. So, what do we got here? Now, I do want to take this moment to say thank you so much for sharing your time with me, guys. I really do appreciate it. We are hitting the 2-hour mark here. So that said, I will be back again tomorrow. But until then, do take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay